presentation, just throw them in the chat feature. And then, so we'll go over a little bit about employers. We'll do a dive into employers' workers' comp appetite, employers' values, best practices while quoting through the Attune portal. I'll go over payment plans, and then I'll go over a demo at the end on how to quote through the Attune portal. I'll skip through these, and then I'll pass it off to Diantha here.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give you a little history about who Employers is and why you might want to work with us, you know, we've been around for a very long time, since 1913. So gosh, 110 years now. I feel like I've been here the whole time. And we are an A-rated minus excellent carrier. And one of the things we're really proud of is we have a very broad appetite, and you'll see we're a national carrier. We have over 500 classes that you'll be able to work with us on. And of course, we do have a lot of value prop under that client first product. So we, you know, and we're going to go over some of the association endorsements and why you might want to find out if somebody's with an association, and some of our claims, values that we have, you know, with our injured employee hotline, transitional job duties. There's some really nice features that, you know, because at the end of the day, right, we're taking care of the injured worker. That's what we do here for workers' comp. And then we'll go over some of our flexible payment plans, which we have about 5 different payment plans. So they are premium threshold based, but I think that you'll see that they're pretty reasonable. And then again, you know, I mentioned in our introduction, I've been working with them with Attune since 2018. And, you know, oh, Brian, I guess, was this something that you like to go over?
Yeah, I can take over from here. So our relationship with employers began in 2018, as Diantha mentioned. It's our 3rd Attune product that we offer on our platform. And Attune and employers with our relationship offer competitive commission. Right now it's 12% new business, 10% renewal. And with the Attune, with the ability to quote through the Attune portal, that gives you direct access. So no direct employer's appointment is needed. All your quoting and binding can be done through the Attune portal.
The really cool thing too about the Attune portal, can I go back to that, is that you're able to get your documents as well, right? So you're able to pull down, so you don't, it happens overnight. So once you bind a policy, you'll be able to pull down the new business policy and the invoices if you need to. So that gives you some insight to what's happening with your policies.
Mm-hmm.
So the great thing is 75% of the businesses in the US fall within our appetite. And it might be a little bit more, but I like to stay around 75%. We really are looking for those low to medium hazards. So we don't, we're not looking for really heavy in appetite, and we can go through a little bit of that. But when I say heavy in appetite, I'm talking about trucking firms and roofers and things like that. That is not something that employers wants, but we do like all of that Main Street type of business. So you're walking down the street, you see your attorney's offices, your retail stores, your pharmacies, your doctor, did I already say doctors? Your restaurants, we love restaurants. So things like that. And there are some construction classes, and we'll go over them, and we will be very specific on those construction classes, what we write. If I don't mention it in today's meeting, we don't write it. So I want to be very, very clear on what we do write in terms of construction. And then also, like I said, we are a national carrier, so we are writing in all states. We can do multi-state policies if you need to. The 4 states listed here are monopolistic. So so Washington, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Ohio. If you do have a risk that is in one of those states, you will need to go to their state fund and get insurance there. But again, our appetite is consistent across the United States. So if you have a risk that is in California and then you have one in Georgia, maybe like one risk where there's maybe it's a Denny's. We're not going to say, hey, we'll write a Denny's in California, but we won't write it in Georgia. We're really very, very consistent on that. And so I'll let you, did you want to take this one, Brian?
Yeah, I can take this one. So all target classes state premium are eligible for straight through quoting. So I put the thresholds here. So any premium size up to 75,000 for California. I'm not going to list them all out, but you'll see California 75K, New Jersey and Texas 50K. So any premium size up to that is available for straight through quoting. Anything over that will be referred to our underwriter Ashley for a little bit further review. So California, then New Jersey and Texas, then we have 40K, 35, and 30. So as you can see here, there is a pretty high threshold that'll allow you to just perform a straight through quote through the Attune portal. And then as the accounts get larger to more middle market is when underwriting referral typically happens.
And these are on our straight through classes. So as we mentioned, we do have a lot of straight through classes, which might be like your restaurants and your attorneys. Those are straight through. But, you know, for something like maybe a janitorial risk, that is not a straight through class necessarily. If it is commercial janitorial and it's under 7,500, you most likely will get a quote. But if it goes over 7,500, it's going to be referred to Ashley and she's going to have a few other questions for you. So one of the benefits of working with employers is that we do have a group that all we work on is just partnerships with associations out there. So one of our largest partnerships that we have is the California Restaurant Association. And if you have a client that is a restaurant and they are in California, or it could be a hotel or motel, and they're a member of the California Restaurant Association, you're going to save 5% on that quote. The one thing though, we would need you to know, because this is not programmed in the Attune system, we would just need for you to let one of your team members over at Attune, let them know that you have that your risk is part of one of these associations, and we can apply that 5% credit. Now in California, also, I'm sorry, I'm talking just about California. I guess that's because that's where I sit. But in California, we also have the Anthem Blue Cross. It's what we call our Medicomp program. So if somebody has Anthem Blue Cross as their health coverage, and then they're going to automatically save 10%. Now that doesn't matter what class of business it is. If they have, and it needs to be a group plan. It's not just an individual Blue Cross plan. It needs to be a group plan for their business. They're going to save 10%, and that can be combined with, for example, the Restaurant Association. I sent Brian a link earlier of all of the associations. This is just a sampling of some of them that we have, and we don't have them in every state, but we are working on that. But I sent him a link, and if you guys are interested, you know, you could take a look at the link. We'll send that out after the, is that something we could do after the call, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
And then I'm going to take it over and just go over a little bit of an appetite overview. So employers, just looking at this screen, has four really big industries that we see a lot of success in: hospitality and food service, retail stores and drivers, bars and nightclubs, and lastly, medical services. So looking at hospitality and food services, our top classes include bed and breakfast, country clubs, restaurants, food trucks, and casual dining establishments. Moving into retail stores and drivers. So employers look for applicants who offer delivery within a 50-mile radius. They're eligible. And then moving down, the sale of CBD Vapes, e-cigarettes are ineligible. So any vape shops at this time would be considered ineligible if they sell these products. Any sort of any sort of retail or deli that sells those products, employers is not in the market for. But the top classes in this category would be clothing stores, electronics, cell phone stores, florists, and supermarkets. And then moving down to bars and nightclubs, applicants must have 2 or more employees on duty at all times. Ineligible applicants include organized raves and gentlemen's clubs. Any crowd control or bouncers would make this risk out of appetite. So employers is really looking for just like bars that don't have a heavy security or crowd control exposure, but like a local bar would be perfect with the employer's appetite. And then top classes include bars, wineries, and beer gardens. And then moving over to medical services, ineligible applicants include rehab clinics, hospitals, or emergency room services. And then the top classes in this category would also include dentists, optometrists, psychologists, and physicians. And one other ineligible operation that I wanted to point out too would be any home healthcare services as well. And then moving on, so employers also has an appetite for schools, automotive services, professional services, and manufacturing. So looking at schools, the top classes would include colleges, vocational schools, childcare centers, nurseries, and charter schools. And any ineligible operations would include residential daycare and adult daycare centers as well. And then moving into automotive services, applicants offering roadside towing, motorcycle repair, or semi-truck repair are ineligible. The top classes here would be auto repair, service centers, gas station, and oil change garages. Moving down to professional services, applicants with no employees such as freelance or owners are ineligible. I will say this has been updated. So outside of our contractor class codes, employers does now write policies for owners only, but like I said, just not for contractors at this time. And so that I apologize, that bullet does need a little bit of an update, but ineligible applicants include bail bondsmen, check cashing services, and talent agencies. And the top classes for this industry would be accountants, day spas, barbers, law firms, printers, libraries, and engineers. And then moving on to manufacturing, similar to the retail and wholesale exposures, applicants who offer delivery within a 50-mile radius are eligible. Anything over that would be ineligible. And then applicants with over 100 employees are subject to referral. And then top classes here would be paper products, food, bakeries, clothing, and leather manufacturing. And then so over the past couple months, end of last year into the past couple months, employers has added a ton of artists and contractors to their appetite. So starting off with landscapers, just going over some eligible versus ineligible operations. Employers is really looking for like the simple landscaping operations such as flower and small bush planting and trimming and maintenance, mow and blow. Hardscape has to be less than 50%, and any snow removal has to be less than 25% of operations. And then any ineligible operations would include tree trimming, swimming pool contractors, excavation work, and mature tree farms. Any sort of work with any sort of big tree services, planting, removing trees, employers is not an appetite for at this time. And then moving on to plumbers and HVAC. So what employers is looking for: HVAC contractors who install, repair, and maintain HVAC systems, plumbers who essentially do the same thing in the plumbing aspect: install, fit, repair, maintain water, waste disposal, drainage, and gas systems. And similar to all of the contractors, work on residential, commercial, industrial, and other buildings is eligible with employers. Ineligible operations under this class would be if 35% or more of the work is subcontracted out, There's work or drilling below 5 feet, use of ladders, lifts, or climb over 30 feet. So I did want to point something out too. So depending on the contractor, employers has a little more flexibility with height work. So for example, ineligible with landscapers would be no use of ladders over 8 feet, as you see here, but with plumbers and HVAC, they extended it up to 30 feet. So you just want to be mindful that not all contractors have the same height requirements. So just to keep that in mind. And then other ineligible operations would be maintain, install industrial boilers, work on well pumps or septic or oil tanks, work on gas, sewer, or water mains, perform remediation or of asbestos, mold, or radon. And then electricians. So essentially, electricians, any electrical apparatus installation would be eligible. Anything ineligible would be work or drill below 5 feet or in work in confined spaces, any public utilities, any high voltage work, work on joint ventures or wrap-ups, use of ladders, lifts, or climb over 30 feet, use of large equipment such as bucket trucks or excavators, to name a few. And any installation of solar panels or satellite dishes would also be ineligible under electricians.
Can I jump in there really quick for a
Yes.
second?
Uh-huh.
So as he's going through this, I did want to mention that one of the things that we will look at all the time is the name of the insured when something is bound. And so we've seen some that just don't make sense. Maybe they come in as or they usually will say what the name of the insured does in the name of they'll say what the insured does in the name, right? Just so you know, if anything does come across with the name solar in the name, we are going to get off of that account. We are going to cancel it. That's just one of them but there are others that if it's out of appetite in the name and we can find, we're going to get off of that. So just solar is the one that we will not, there's no exceptions on. So I just wanted to point that out. And these questions, by the way, are in the quote flow that you're going to go through on the Attune portal. So you don't have to memorize them, but that's, I just wanted to give you a little tip that that's one thing that we will look at here at employers.
Mm-hmm. And then moving into flooring, any for eligible operations, wood, carpet, tile, laminate flooring installation. I will say this kind of goes hand in hand with flooring, but carpet cleaning would not be an eligible operation with employers. And then looking at ineligible, remediation or removal of asbestos, mold, or lead-based paint would be ineligible. Any carpentry or handyman services, cabinetry work, or installation would be ineligible as well. And lastly, silica dust exposure would also be ineligible. Moving into painting, so interior and exterior painting under 30 feet on both residential and commercial structures is eligible, in addition to decorative shop painting. And then just going down ineligible, and like Diantha said, this is all throughout the quote flow too, so you don't have to memorize any of this. But perform work on or adjacent to roadways, bridges, or overpasses, water towers, or ships. Carpentry or handyman repair services are also ineligible. Work on public utilities, work on joint ventures or wrap-ups, use of ladders, lifts, or climb above 30 feet, own, rent, or hire large equipment, similar to our other contractor classes, no bucket trucks, cherry picker, crane, excavator, etc. Use of industrial coatings or sandblasting, and lastly, remediation of or removal of asbestos, mold, and lead-based paint are ineligible. And then just to go over our top work.
Oh, can we just, sorry.
Yeah.
Before you go, so the classes that he just went over are those are the artisans that we write. Mm-hmm. So I know there was a question about, do you write roofers and things like that? No, we don't. So only the painting, the flooring, the electricians, and the plumbers and HVAC and landscapers. Did I miss one? Did I say flooring? So those five classes, those are what we will do. Mm-hmm. So I just don't want anybody to be disappointed if they put in something different and we don't do it. And one other thing, Brian, we should probably mention in those classes, we are looking for a minimum payroll of $50,000 per class. Otherwise, it would decline because we're not writing anything less than 50,000 for the minimum payroll. It just the results that we've seen in the past when it's under 50,000 is not very good. And so employers has decided to put a minimum on artisan contractors only. Same for painters.
And that reminds me too, also regarding contractors, one thing, there is an underwriting question. I'll show you all in the demo later, but there is an underwriting question about vehicle usage. And it's just a part of the job that employers and Attune are under the impression that all contractors are going to be taking their cars out to drive to a job site or wherever they're performing work at. So it's really important to also just mark that question accurately during the underwriting quote flow. And then just going over our top workers' comp classes, hotel and motel, auto service repair centers, clerical offices, and then just a really important note on clerical offices. I just want to go over some ineligible work under clerical would be logistics and or, logistics brokering, freight forwarding, managing dispatching vehicles, staffing operations are not eligible. And I do see a lot of submissions that we unfortunately have to come off risk for and issue cancellations are employers has to contemplate the entire operations. So they couldn't just write a clerical portion of an insured's entire operations. And that goes hand in hand too. Although the insured might be working in an office and dispatching a vehicle, there is sort of a claims risk that is presented to in, like, for example, as I just mentioned, managing or dispatching vehicles. So even if the insured or employee might be working in an office, employers does, like I said, have to consider the entirety of the operations. And then moving down to, we have physicians, retail stores and drivers, colleges, restaurants, beverage preparation shops, meat stores, and lastly, supermarkets.
And Brian, Maria asked if we could talk about the clerical really quick. I know you mentioned what's ineligible or not eligible, but when you think of a clerical office, maybe this might help. And Ashley, jump in if I misstate this. But for clerical, I want you to think about what a clerical person does and what their operation. They are in they're in an office. They have four walls. They don't have interaction face to face with a customer. They don't go out into the shop where there's a machine shop or something like that. They're not roaming around a construction site. They are literally in an office, maybe like just somebody that does not leave the office. That's all they do. So, and what Brian is saying about the things that are out of appetite, these are things that we've seen that have been listed as clerical when obviously not clerical, like a logistics or, that's a trucking firm. So we can't just write the clerical operations of a trucking firm. We have to contemplate the entire risk. So, that's really important for you to think about when you're putting something under 8810. And if you're really not sure how to classify something, Attune does a really great job to help you classify. And if they need help, then we've got Ashley. She's really good. And Attune will reach out to Ashley and we'll nail down the class code for you. But whatever you do, because at the end of the day, we will look at something, like I said, with the name of the insured in it. And if it only says clerical on there, it could mean that it really wasn't eligible for employers. The implications to just putting something in as clerical could result in a declination, not a declination, but we could end up canceling that policy. And then you'll have to replace coverage. And it's just really not fair for the insured when there are companies that can place that business appropriately. So if you're not sure if it should just be clerical, then, just go ahead and reach out to your Attune team.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm just going to go over some best practices. And like I said, I'll be doing a demo too later that'll help kind of visualize everything. but it's really important to always have the FEIN when you're before quoting, just because that'll be one of the underwriting and quote flow questions in the Attune portal. But also, I'd like to give the example too. So say an agent outside of Attune, so you're not quoting through, or someone isn't quoting through the Attune portal, enters in the correct FEIN, and you put in a placeholder FEIN, that agent will have, like, they'll be considered the broker of record on that account because they were the first ones to enter in that correct FEIN. So it's really important, like I said, to have that available and ready right when you're quoting in the Attune portal. And then moving down to payroll accuracy, it's important to have a really strong payroll number when going into quote. And this goes hand in hand with the final premium audit. All policies at the end of the term go through a final premium audit, and that just determines the variance of the payroll from what was estimated, the amount entered, and what the insured actually had at the end of the term. So if payroll isn't as accurate as possible, the insured could be left with a huge variance and end up having a large payment due at the end of their term that they'll have to end up paying. Where in if that was entered in from the beginning more accurately, they would be able to stretch it over a longer period of time. And then also regarding payroll accuracy too. So I do see a lot of submissions, a lot of inquiries come in on why an account was declined. And I like to keep, as I mentioned, you do want to have accurate payroll, but keep in mind, if the payroll is entered and it's below minimum wage for that state, it's most likely going to lead to a decline. So just keep that in mind when you're quoting. Like a one employee in New York City isn't going to probably be making $5,000 a year, just to give an example. So just keep that in mind while you're quoting. Then moving down to description. Attune likes to, there's a question that'll ask description of operations. Attune does like to have that on record to make sure we can contemplate the overall operations of the risk. And as I mentioned before, you do want to enter in a class code that that is the governing class code for the overall operations. You can include clerical if there is an accounting or office employee, but you do want to have an overall class code for the entirety of the operations. And then lastly, officer exclusions. I'm going to demonstrate this in the portal and just to get a clearer visual, but our portal automatically applies state laws regarding officer exclusions. So in some states, depending on the entity type, like a LLC, member might be excluded or automatically included, and our portal will apply that logic during the quote flow. And like I said, I'll demonstrate that in a little bit just to give you guys a clearer direction on that. But also, it's really important to collect the officer exclusion forms while working with the insured regardless. Employers sometimes does an audit where they'll request from Attune, we supply the officer exclusion form. So like I said, it's good to have that on hand in case we have to reach out to you and grab that and forward that to employers. And then going over payment plans, employers currently offers the following payment plans: 100% down or annual pay. And then we have quarterly pay, which is 30% down in 3 equal installments. And then we have 20% down in 9 equal installments, 10% down in 9 equal installments. And lastly, we have precise pay, which is available for policy sizes over 1,500. And as you see here, that's a pay as you go. So it's dependent on the insured's payroll cycle. So if the insured is interested in that option, you'll enter in their contact email. They'll enter in their payroll information and be able to do that on on more of their own payroll timeline. And then the benefit of precise pay too is it allows more accuracy at final premium audit because the insured is reporting their payroll more regularly.
And I will ask that you make sure that you're entering your insured's contact information and not yours as the agent's, because we are going to be reaching out to the insured based on that contact information. So we've seen where agents have done that, and it's really kind of stalled the process for the insured.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to go over a demo of the quote flow of the employer's product in the Attune portal. Okay, so this is what the Attune portal, I'll just give a quick overview of it in case you need to chat in with our care team. We have this support button and our care team does a great job of taking care of all questions you might have. You'll just type in your question and then hit contact us, and then it should pull up to one of our care representatives. If you want to go over our underwriting guidelines, we have them for all products, including employers is the last one down here. And so it'll list a bunch of the eligible class codes and just certain appetite information. A lot of it what I presented today, but goes into a little more detail and all of our products are right here. And then, so I'm going to get started in our quote demo. So you'll just click new client, and then I'm going to do a fried chicken restaurant. And then it's employers and Attune appreciate and definitely recommend to include the DBA. It makes it easier to perform just underwriting review, especially during our referral process. So definitely include the DBA if the insured does have one. I'm going to put in the our Attune office. And then here's where I mentioned the detailed description of operations. It's really important to include that just so we can get a good underwriting understanding of the insured. And then here is where you'll put the description of business. And then here, so on the account, this is where on the page where you make the account, it'll automatically go over which products are eligible and ineligible for that type of business. So it'll save you some time so you don't get to the end of a quote and get a decline. You'll see which class codes are eligible or not. Like, for example, I'll put in like a roofing contractor, and you'll see it's ineligible for employers. So it does a good job at saving you time in case something is not eligible. Then I'm just going to go back to fast food. And then here is where you'll type in the FEIN, and I'm going to show you what happens when you try to put a placeholder in. You'll get a little warning too. See here, is this a real FEIN? So as I mentioned, it's really important to enter that in accurately the first time. And then it also, another reason too, is if the FEIN isn't accurate, it can lead to fines for the insured because the state won't know the insured has coverage. So that's another reason why it's really important to have that accurate FEIN while quoting and binding. And then I'll do LLC. And then you can add up to 7 locations in the portal. If an insured has more than that, we have to manually quote on our end. So you can send in the accord, but you should be able to quote up to 7 locations right here in the portal. And then location address, I'm going to do the same as the mailing address, but it's important to note, I do see a lot of PO boxes entered as the mailing address, and then our portal will pull that over for the location address. So it's important just to make sure the location address, if it's separate from the mailing, is you just update that here. And then here's where you'll enter the employee classification. So I did a fast food restaurant, so restaurant, full service, and then so employers does have a fast food restaurant class code here. And if for some reason you needed to add different, say there's different employee duties, so you can add subsequent employee classifications here. So say there's like an accountant, you can add the clerical if they aren't doing any work on the restaurant floor. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do restaurant, fast food, and drivers. I'll say 200,000. And then here, and this is where I want to stress this again. So regarding officer exclusions, like I said earlier, our portal applies state logic or law and applies that logic into our quote flow. So some states might automatically include an officer depending on entity type. Some might automatically exclude. So I'll show you what happens when you try to exclude an LLC member in New York. So this is the error that'll pop up. So LLC members in New York are automatically excluded. So you will only have the option in our portal to include. So if the officer needs to be excluded, just, you don't have to leave, you wouldn't put anything there. You would just remove this, put nothing if they're automatically excluded. However, if they wanted to be included, you would have that option to do so. And I really want to, like I said, stress this a lot. I do see agents here and there will be like, oh, I want the officer's name listed on the policy. I'm going to click included, or just totally forget to fill this out as needed. And if they click included, as simple as that might sound, they will be included on the policy, and that'll reflect on an audit if it was on, even if it was unintended. So employers will see this and say, oh, they opted to include themselves, even though they were meant to be excluded, and their payroll will be accounted for in that final premium audit. So like I said, it's really important to be mindful of the officer exclusions while filling this out. And you can always reach out to the Attune team. We can always confirm. We can always send over an exclusion form to make sure an officer is excluded properly. If you have any questions or concerns about it, just reach out to us and we'll make sure we have it taken care of if there's any problems with it. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to just remove this. But as you saw, I did have the option to include but not exclude, because LLC members are automatically excluded in the portal, or per state law in New York. And then here you'll enter in the effective date and then select the employer's liability limits. So I'll do 1 million. And then here is where you'll enter in loss info. So it's really important to enter in the loss history. It's dependent on years in business. So if it's under 4 years, it'll only ask how many years. But you only have to check that if there's a loss, so you don't have to put 0 in. If you put 0 in, it'll just give you an error. So if there's no losses, you can leave it blank. There is a loss, you'll just enter in how many, total amount, total paid, total amount reserved per year. And then here are the underwriting questions. So this is the class specific underwriting question. So this pertains to restaurant operations. So does the applicant offer delivery, off-premise catering, operate a mobile catering service? For simplicity, I'm going to leave this blank, but I'll show you. It does ask follow-up questions. So if they do offer delivery, do they use third-party delivery services like Grubhub, Uber Eats, etc., or does the insured do it on their own? And if they do they use motorcycles, scooters, or bikes, make deliveries past 11, and XYZ here. And then here are the underwriting questions for all businesses across the employer's quote flow. So just a few things I want to point out. There are more cascading questions too. So does the applicant engage subcontractors or independent contractors? Employers does require certificates collected if the insured does utilize subcontractors or independent contractors. So you want to make sure that that they do, and if they don't, unfortunately, would be ineligible with employers. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the a lot specifically with contractors, but any insured that offers delivery or uses vehicles in the course of business. Employers requires motor vehicle records are reviewed upon hire and annually. And then another question about group transportation. So it's important that if the insured does have driving exposure, that motor vehicle records are checked, and that this is answered accurately as well. And then just going over quickly the last few questions: any prior coverage declined, canceled, non-renewed in the last 3 years? Does the applicant provide employee health plans? The applicant lease employees from other employers? And lastly, the applicant owns, operates, or leases aircraft or watercraft. And then I'm just, like I said, going to leave these all blank for simplicity so you can get a quote to go through. And then here's a little game too that you can play while waiting for your quote to go through. But you just click the policies. I don't know why this was declined. Let me see if I can go through.
You have a FEIN, same FEIN number?
Let me see it. Let me try increasing the payroll too.
Oh, the payroll should have been okay.
I know it's weird. Huh.
Oh, maybe we're having a little difficulty in QA today.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let me just try a different class code real quick.
we promise it works.
I know. I just wanted to also be able to show the bind.
Yeah, folks, while Brian's doing this, sorry for this is our test environment, so there could be work in the background. But a few questions came in. Will we have a list by state with appetite? Miriam asked this. We do not have a list by state, but I recommend just kind of getting into the portal and really trying it. Our portal is set up that it has that full list for everything. It's very expansive. So I think the easiest and most efficient way is to really just kind of get into the portal and start quoting. But great question. We just don't have kind of like a desk copy for you.
And we don't add employers. We don't necessarily put out a full complete list either. You know, we have a appetite working group that is constantly looking at, you know, where could we expand or what can we do differently? And so if we were to change something, if we put it out in just a piece of paper for you to put on your desk, you might be missing some opportunity there because you wouldn't know. So we prefer you to just jump in because the Attune portal is hitting our appetite and it'll let you know if it's in appetite or not.
Exactly. Our portal's updated in real time. So that is the best way, most efficient way to know or kind of test an opportunity. And then Jason asked if Attune will do the MVR. Great question, Jason, but unfortunately Attune does not do MVRs on behalf of the insured or anything like that. And then Chris Bailey asked what percent max if using subs. So the percent maximum for subcontractors. I unfortunately do not know that off the top of my head. Ashley, I hate to put you on the spot.
It's okay. I was just putting it. Oh, it looks like I was sending it to Diantha by accident. I apologize. So it depends on the risk, really. For example, like a contractor, you know, not higher than 40% is typically where we hover. But it's really kind of on a case by case. Sorry, I can't kind of give a better explanation than that, but it really is kind of dependent on the risk.
Hey, Brian, can you
I'm trying to find one of Shane's old quotes. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble with that too, but I'm assuming there's an issue in our staging environment, unfortunately. So, but I can show if this quote were approved, you would get similar to our bot product and other product lines. You would have the button right here. It would be a green button that says bind. And essentially what you enter is the insured's payment information or not payment information, their payment plan, contact info, effective date you'll confirm, and then hit submit bind. And then within 24 hours, it takes about 24 hours or overnight for the bind to process. And then all the documents will appear right here in the portal. So I just like to say, just check back within 24 hours of your bind request and all the documents, like I said, should be right there. But unfortunately, I do apologize. I cannot get a quote to go through to show you that process.
It looks like there was an account that came in, Brian, maybe from our IT department, but maybe you could look at this one. It says test WC. See if you could pull that one out. One word.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Thank you, Diantha. So this will show the quote details. So once you get an approved quote, it'll show the effective date of the quote number. And I will point out too, all employers' quote numbers and policy numbers include EIG in front of it too. So this is just the partial quote number. And then, like I said here, you can go to bind. or if you need to edit the quote. But if you go to bind, this is what it'll look like. And this is just a little info sheet on working with employers. So any general questions, you'll reach out to Attune's care team. Employers does not recognize our sub agents. So unfortunately, if you were to call into employers, they would not be able to answer any questions. But like I said, Attune will be able to contact employers as need be or answer any questions on the spot for you. And then as mentioned, employers, it takes about 24 to 48 hours to generate policy documents. They'll appear in the portal within that time frame, and our team will also follow up with whatever agent email bound the account. We'll follow up with a physical policy document via email and the first invoice. And then billing, employers is direct bill. So invoices will be sent to via email and physical mail to the insured. And then billing increase can be made by calling employers at this phone number. Or I also want to point out too, employers added this nice feature. If the insured would like to just do an easy payment, they can just go to employers.com, or if you would like to help the insured make a payment online, you don't have to call into employers. They just go to make a payment, and then you'll accept this, hit continue, and all you'll need to enter is the policy number and the insured zip code. And then just going back here, claims should be directed to employers as well. And then a little info on their claims and is right there.
Jason Frank asked if he thought we said we don't write clerical. That no. We write clerical, we write it all day long. We just don't write, we will look for misclassification in clerical because it happens all the time. And so if we find out it really is just clerical, that's not a problem. But if we find out that it is, maybe it was clerical in a retail store, then we're going to add the retail store class because and that's fine. You'll just have to let your insured know. But if we find out it was clerical in a trucking firm, we're going to get off that account because first of all, clerical, we did not rate for that complete exposure to that business. So we're definitely getting an inadequate premium. And to cover any cost of a claim, you know, obviously a difference between somebody getting injured in a semi accident versus somebody sitting at their desk is completely different and just a huge difference in the risk. So what we're saying is we're going to look to make sure that those clerical classes are classified correctly. So that's why we mentioned freight, forwarding, global logistics, bales, those are just some of the common things we've seen in the past of misclassification.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
I think you nailed it, Diantha. Yeah, Jason, I think just to put my 2 cents in, rule of thumb, when you're quoting and classifying an account, just try and include all class codes that cover the scope of the operation. I understand sometimes maybe only the office worker wants a workers' comp policy, or that's the only thing you're trying to write. Those are the cases that we're really kind of talking about that will be reviewed post-bind and either be endorsed or will have to come off risk.
Cool.
Sorry, Brian, didn't mean
No,
to.
you're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian, too. I totally interrupted you.
I think that's
Sorry.
really important to go over too. So, and then here you'll enter the insured email address and phone number. And like Diantha said earlier, it's important to have that insured's actual email address and phone number and not your agent. We can always add a supplemental email contact address if you would like to, but the insured will be responsible for since employers is direct bill for the billing. They'll also be responsible at final premium audit at the end. So it is important that we have accurate contact info for the insured so employers can reach out to them as need be. And then here you'll put in my email address.
Not really your phone number.
No. And then payment plan, I'll just do one payment plan. And then here you'll click bind quote. Oh, did I miss? Oh. And then as you can see, as long as you have all the insured information, quoting can be done as in little and binding can be done in little as 5 minutes. So it's a really quick process. There isn't too many underwriting questions to go over. So the Attune portal makes it super easy to quote and bind very quickly. And then here we also, as I mentioned earlier, but have a little blurb too, just letting you know to check back in 24 to 48 hours for policy documents. Our team, the Accord 75, the binder is available right away. So you can always reach out to our care team and we can pull it up for you right away. But the actual policy documents will generate here and our team will email you, the binding agent, a copy of the first invoice and the policy as soon as it's made available in the employer's platform. And then that was it on my end. I can stop here for any questions.
Great job as always, Brian.
Thank you. And you too, Diantha.
Yeah, I think we do have a few outstanding questions in the chat. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being so active. It makes the webinars much more fun. And they've all been great questions. One of them from Mohammed, can you do security guard unarmed workers comp? Mohammed, we might have to take that one. Oh, Diantha's shaking her head. Maybe I'm talking too fast.
No, we don't. We do not offer security guards. We do have a closed program for, it's in our programs team, but it's closed to everybody else. Unfortunately, that is not something we want to release out to everyone. So, no.
Awesome. And then Maria asked, if we do not have their payment method, can we still bind? Unfortunately, you will need to enter something while going through the bind flow to bind.
You don't need their payment info at bind.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you just need to enter in a payment plan, and then after bind, the insured, and we'll send an email with the invoice, and that invoice will also appear in the Attune portal as well.
Awesome. Thank you for keeping me honest.
But if you don't, if the only payment plan, if you only leave it as annual payment plan, you know, if you decide you want to change that, it has to be done through an endorsement. So, and we can endorse the payment plans if they meet the premium thresholds, except we can't go from an installment to a pay-as-you-go. So if you are going to choose pay-as-you-go, you need to do that before binding.
Mm-hmm. And then piggybacking off that, employers will change them to a 10 payment plan after 10 days if the insured doesn't enroll in Precise Pay after bind. So it's important that they do that as soon as possible.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So, you know, when they choose pay-as-you-go, it's because it says 0 deposit and then they'll report their payroll. So if they do get reverted back to that installment, we are going to require that, you know, 10 or 20% deposit, whichever payment plan. I think they try to go with the lowest one, but they will be required to pay that deposit up front, even though they chose Precise Pay if they don't respond. So that is, I guess, an ask for you. If you do choose to put somebody on Precise Pay, let them know that they will have to go in and register for the portal at employers.com. And Brian, can you show really again, real fast, employers.com? And the insured needs to do this, not the agent. The insured needs to do it.
Let me go back.
Oh, right there. Yeah. So where it says register now, they could just go in and register now with their information. Just walk through. It's a very simple setup. So it would be it would be easy for them to go through it and just get it done. And so we do contact them through email. As long as you put in a good contact information, we will contact them through email. So you might want to just say, hey, I gave them your information, look for your email to register. Any other questions?
It looks like we have a few in the Q&A section. Larry asked, how can I find the company's FEIN number? The insured should have that. That's pretty basic for a small business. So their leadership team or the owner should be able to provide that to you. Kevin Bell asked, what if we are also the payroll company and the AOR and want to do pay as you go?
Can you read that again?
So Kevin Bell asked, what if we are also the payroll company and the agent of record and want to do pay as you go? So basically a payroll company that wants to do pay as you go. Yeah.
We do have, I can send Brian a list of approved vendors that we already are working with. And if you're not one of the approved vendors, you would need to contact our PrecisePaidEmployers.com to become an approved vendor. The insured is still going to need to do their initial setup, choose the payroll company, and then the payroll company at that point could report on their behalf. But there is still some initial setup for that insured to do.
Great question. It was kind of a curveball to end this.
Thanks. Great meeting you guys, and what a turnout.
Yeah, I think we've answered everything. And if anything comes up afterwards, thank you all for joining, and please feel free to reach out to the Attune team through the portal, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that come up.
Great. Thank you all so much. You'll be seeing an email with all this information.
Thank you. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.